Kia ora, this program is brought to you by Wellington Access Radio. Wellington Access Radio, make your voice heard.
Welcome back to the Blackhouse. It's episode 40. Can you believe it?
I can believe it.
We're up to episode 40. It's just like nuts.
Bravo.
I can't believe we've done that much.
Brilliant and good work on you. Like, seriously.
I'm exhausted.
You black and tired? What a shock.
Yeah. I'm black and I'm tired.
Welcome to 2021. We're black, we're tired, and we're doing it anyway.
Yeah, we definitely are. We've moved through, we've got a whole lot of archive podcasts up on YouTube, and we're going to have to get this young lady in the room because she'd been helping me the last time to get up our last almost 20 odd episodes that we've done since we did the last upload.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to do it. And we're not here with Onkyo today, so we're not on video.
No,
I mean, I can multicast, but I'm not that good. I mean, I'd like to have 8 arms, but I don't have that.
I know.
I think that black woman is supposed to have 8 arms.
It's true. It's that Anansi energy.
Yeah. Copious amounts of energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anansi spider energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Get our hands in
Yes, I can cook the dinner. I can run a radio station. I can comb my hair and braid it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, what's my 5th arm doing?
Yeah.
I forgot. I completely forgot.
Smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, smoking a cigarette, having a cigar, eating a pancake. Okay, so how's things going on with you and the new book?
Oh,
Manny?
me?
Yeah.
Yes, the book. So, see what happened was. See what happened. No, it's going really well.
Yeah.
I've been doing, the whole entire book is finished, basically. Right. So I started by winning. And so from here on out, it's all just polishing and editing and putting it all together in a way that I want it to be presented as published.
Right.
Like, so it's just making sure that it hits an audience correctly. And my only issue right now is that I've written that book and now I'm in a different place and I want to add new chapters and come at it from a completely different angle.
So how are you going to go about that? Are you just going to go and just write some more and sort of like insert it in different places? Or?
Literally, I spent like last night being like, oh my God, do I just scrap everything and like start again? Because I'm in a completely different place emotionally and I have a lot of reflection.
Yes? I just remembered something.
Yes?
I met some young boys over the weekend. Was it the weekend? During the week. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the weekend now, so it was during the week. Who are at intermediate and they're comic makers.
Oh, yes, there we go. There we go. They might even be students of mine.
They might even be listening right now.
They might even be listening right now.
Well, the mum's been on the show before, but I would really like you to meet them.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, no, I've done comic tutoring before for the Wellington City Council. They've asked me to go through and talk to youth groups and just be like, all right, y'all, idle hands make terrible things. So let's make comics instead.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay, so, and also you've got the wearable arts. Where you at with that at the moment?
Oh my God, I don't know. They haven't got back to me. They were like, oh, we love you. We'll get in contact. And then they didn't. I'm like, oh my God, my heart, I can't handle this.
Okay.
Stress.
You never know.
you know.
Just breathe it into the, what do you call it? Speak it into the universe.
Speak it into the universe. Maktub.
Yeah. Okay, our guest today is a young lady who runs an organisation called Black Elite. It's a group of young girls who have been doing lots of things in the community. And she's also the host of the upcoming Dashiki Afrobeats party with her crew. Hey! everybody's
Brilliance.
getting jazzed up for
Black
that. This is all,
brilliance.
it's going to be
Welcome.
all on. There's ladies around here getting their outfits made for this thing. Yep, absolutely. So I'd like to welcome to the show today, Clench. Clench, yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing good, guys.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be here in Wellington?
Kia ora all, my name is Clench. I came to New Zealand as a refugee due to the fact there was a war going on in South Sudan. So, yeah, that's how I came to Aotearoa.
And so how long ago was that?
That will be about 17 years ago. So some people basically said I'm a Kiwi, but nah.
Yeah, no, I feel that, right? Like we got to make a space for ourselves before we can actually feel like we belong.
Exactly.
So do you think what do you tell us about Black Elite?
So Black Elite originally started last year. So me and one of my friend called Patricia, we wanna start a group to like interact with like African communities and bring them together, not just party events. So we did our first event, which is called the Cookout, just to bring everyone together and just socialize and having a great time. And then it's mostly focused on community based and gathering people together and just enjoy themselves.
Get that beautiful community energy all together.
Exactly, like without conflicts, without trouble.
That's hard.
You know, like
that's even harder.
Yeah, like we just want people to have fun and to unite. Like
trying to make a positive space so that we can make a positive change.
Exactly, and there's not a lot of communities events that's out here for the African community. In New Zealand, because if you look at the Pacific, Asian and Māori, they have a huge group in which us we're lacking with that type of things.
We really are. Like that's very real. It's a really beautiful thing for you to take on that role. I think, in fact, I don't just think, I know for a fact that it's hard and it can be melodramatic and it can be like real entangled, but the results of taking on that role are so intensely beautiful.
It is.
That it's worth it. But it is also exhausting.
It's very tiring. I didn't realize how tiring this event is. Like, Leah's like, what are you doing this? I'm like, oh my gosh, I got my... It's very tiring.
Yeah, I'm kind of like... I'm kind of like a backup organizer.
Nah.
The Blackhouse is there as backup.
Nah, shout to Leah and the Blackhouse, man. Like, I think we wouldn't have gone this far without their support and love.
Yeah.
Backing us through this. So we really appreciate
Yes.
it.
Snaps.
Snap, snap, snap.
Yes.
Snap. Yeah.
So tell us about your cookouts. Like, who comes along to these events? Is it like just young people, or is it the entire community? Like, what's your audience, mate?
The first one we did last year, it was a lot of young people came, but surprisingly, a lot of young mums that came along with their kids, and like they enjoyed. So we primarily, it's actually for everyone, but not just for a younger generation. But I think I'm young, so a lot of elderly thinks that they won't be able to come, but nah, it's for everyone, not just the younger generation.
Young moms are actually a really good demographic, because when you get like kids who are raised in those like warm environments, they just think it's normal and they think it's always been there.
Yeah.
And so once you have one generation who goes from the beginning to a certain point, they'll take over, and for them, it's always been like that. And I think that that's a really healthy place to start.
Yeah, exactly. But the cookout was really nice because I didn't see a lot of people like certain groups interacting with one another.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just got emotional because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I would never thought this person and this person would come together and enjoy without any like war or fight. And like usually a lot of boys will create a lot of like trouble. Yeah. But they were just like enjoying each other's company. I was like, oh, you see that?
You know what it is. You know what it is. You get like the old boys and they're fed though. Yeah. You give them food first.
As long as they're food, they're happy.
When you start with food and you work your way backwards, you're actually going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we're organizing, because we want people to like contribute, like a potluck to bring food, but then hardly no one bought any food.
That's the one.
So like we had to make a mission to actually fundraise ourselves to provide food for people.
Yeah.
But once people had ate, they're happy, just chilled, vibing, and it was nice.
It's so real, right? Like, especially, I think there's this thing in the Black community, like the moment you're providing food, like we are very disparate, and like despite the sort of stereotype around us, we can actually be incredibly isolating.
Exactly.
Like we are just like, no, I don't even want to think about it. Let me just get through the day. So the moment you're providing food in a community space, like you get a completely different side of people. All of that anxiety and tension can actually melt away, which again, I commend you for actually just setting up and jumping the hurdles it takes to do that, because it's such a healing space.
Nah, it is like, like going through COVID and all that kind of stuff. The last thing we need is to be together and support one another. Yeah. Like my sister was in a hospital and all that kind of stuff was hard. So if we didn't have Leah, for example, like I wouldn't know what to do. Yeah. So having that sense of like who to connect really quick and having that support that someone's going to come straight away to you guys, and that's what we actually need in our African society in Wellington.
I think another thing that ties into is the whole mental health aspect. Like a lot of us are spiraling out for one reason or another, and like if you bring those positive spaces into place, what happens, and one of the reasons why they become dramatic and why it can be exhausting, is it becomes a platform for people to vent their emotional health issues. But if you give them food first, it'll be a little easier.
Yeah. They'll calm down. Once they have food in their tummy, they'll calm down.
Yeah. Somebody to listen and some like chicken in your stomach and you're good. Give me some lentils. I'm all right.
I know.
Oh, speaking of mental health, I noticed on your Black Elite Facebook page, you actually did a little bit of a campaign sometime last year. What was that all about?
So last year in my photography in the dark room, I did a project based called "It's Okay Not to Be Okay." So it's basically it was towards ethnic people. So I want to challenge ethnic people to feel, if they're okay, they have to say, I'm not okay, not to hide their emotions away. So it was more reflecting on my personal story, but then all ethnic people have like trouble.
There's a lot of overlap in everyone's story from the sort of like, but one of the big things I'm seeing on all of our levels is the way that we can gaslight ourselves and we can gaslight each other. Not because we mean to, we're not coming at it from that angle, but we end up there because we're like, I don't even believe the shit that happened to me.
Exactly.
Right? And so I don't believe myself and what I've gone through. I don't believe, like, and it's easy to push everybody away and out and only want that positivity. So it's beautiful that you would make it's okay not to be okay as like a forward foot within your world.
That's a really interesting point you've made, Nanny, because one thing that I've noticed, like, I think in the diaspora, when you've grown up in the diaspora, we're around other cultures that may be, like in New Zealand, that are dealing with the mental health issue. So we are probably a little bit more comfortable actually being out about it. But what I have noticed is that people try to shut you down.
They do.
If they're not, and it's usually people that have grown up somewhere else, which is really sad because you see, or they'll flip their that what do you call it? That mental health, emotional baggage into something that they've got to be really strong about.
Yes.
And
it's an amazing survival strategy, especially when you're Black. Is just to be like, oh, screw you. If I'm facing too much, I will simply become more than that. And we gain so much strength from our hardship. We have had to. But the downside of that is, how do you cope with peace and calm and it actually being okay? What happens in those spaces, you start flooding out, like all of the things that you've been pressing down have the room to expand.
I think because I grew up here like most of my life, I remember this one particular moment in high school in year 12. And I told my English teacher, you know what, I want to aim for an excellence endorsement because it's like the highest endorsement. And then he looked at me, he was like, please, like he's like, I think you should aim for a merit endorsement. And I was like, bruh. I can't believe like a teacher actually said that to me. Like a deputy principal. Like he's a deputy principal in our school and he said that to me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let this affect me emotionally, because if I did, it will drain me.
Exactly.
And then from there, I'm like, I'm going to prove this teacher wrong. And I did. And then by the end of year 13, I got like a scholarship. And he came up to me and he was like, oh, congratulations, Clench. I'm like, bro, you didn't believe in the first place. Like, why are you trying to? Like, you're the people, you're one of the people that out there putting our culture down and all that kind of stuff.
That's
like, bro, no. And that, like, and now he's the principal, and I'm like, nah, he shouldn't be.
Right? But you get this thing, like, so you get sort of aligned one way or another. Either when they challenge you, you rise, or when they challenge you, you sink. And I feel like there's a point almost like in your youth or in your teen years where you're going to make that decision about yourself. And I definitely know what you mean about falling into and when they challenge me, you want to there's a buffety, or like there's a really good Maori word for it. But when they challenge you, you're like, I accept. I accept.
Yeah.
But the problem, it's like there's an edge on either side of that sword, because then you become challenging. You become just as like, you're all like big frills and like fangs and shit. You're like, if somebody comes at you and they really do mean it the way that they say, and you're like, oh yeah, it's a challenge, I'm gonna throw down.
I remember when I was this is going a long way back. We used to have labour centres where you go for work, to find work, and it wasn't like a temp agency. It was run by the government. So this is way back in the dark old ages, right?
When dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Yeah, when dinosaurs roamed,
so
when the mowers roamed New Zealand.
So you're like riding there on a mower.
Basically riding down there in a mower.
Yeah.
And like I went in there and I looked at this job on the board and I thought, oh yeah, I'll go for that. Mm-hmm. And I went up to the desk and I said, I'd like to apply for this job. And I think it was working in a bar. I always had this thing. I ended up doing a bar course and all that sort of stuff, done all that. But I went up to the lady and she said, oh no, your notes on here, you can't actually apply for that job. And I said, what notes? Because this was when computers had just come in, right?
Oh.
Before that, everything was done on paper.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean I can't do it? I didn't know that I was handicapped and couldn't pour drinks. And she said, oh no, there's notes up here. And I said, notes where? And I walked around behind her desk and it said, only refer this lady for cleaning.
Oh, what? Wow.
And that was the government. God. Yeah, that was a government department.
Oh my God.
And when I saw that, I was like, that was my challenge. Yeah. And I went on to not only do a bar course, but I became a bar manager. Yeah. And then I went on to university in my 30s because people kept telling me I couldn't.
Yeah. That's exactly that. Honestly, I think I've mentioned this before. You're like, where did all this like doing an anime come from? I decided for sure that I wanted to be a comic book and cartoon illustrator when I had an art teacher. And it was so backhanded. Because she was like, you know what? Look, you've got some talent here. I really think that, cartoons are a waste of time for you.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like, and I'm like, but this is my passion. I care. This is where I want to go. And she's like, yeah, but it's not really an industry that has, any money in it. Now, if you literally look at the numbers, I'm sorry, that's just strictly incorrect. And I have walked both paths, like traditional art and cartooning. Right now, I could get a job like that as a cartoonist internationally with the internet.
I need to actually make it clear you're a graphic artist as well.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
So can we come back to? I'm going to play a song, and can we come back to a talk about graphic arts after this? What do you reckon?
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. So first up, I'm going to play Mike Acox. This is the man assigned with bringing Afro beats to Australia his way. Even though it's been decades since Afrobeat was introduced to the diaspora, it's only recently gaining the traction mainstreaming. Mike Acox is on a path to being one of a couple of great Afrobeat artists to come out of Australia, and I'm actually really proud to say that my oldest son is produced for this guy. So here is Spectacular by Mike Acox.
For your sake, I'll give a blessing. For your love, I could do get on my DMs, way. Them other girls, they be Sachi, so. Call me up, I go show up in the PMO, way. And anything that you want, I go buy for you, way. Them other girls, they be playing, baby girl, only you. It no be fight, oh. When I day here with my baby girl, we dey got vibe, oh. It no be fight, oh. When I day here with my baby girl, my baby is better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better. Oh na 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 na, it's better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better, it's better, it's better, it's better, cola. No one fit touch my baby. I go save my baby, protect my baby. I be Mike Tyson for my baby. Any man come close, I swear I go fight. Baby, for your love, I swear I go die. And be fight, oh. When I day here with my baby girl, we dey got vibe, oh. And no be fight, oh. When I day here with my baby girl, my baby is better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better. Oh na 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 na, it's better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better, it's better, it's better, it's better, cola. It's better, it's better, colas better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better. Oh na 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 na, it's better, it's better, it's better, it's better, colas better, it's better, it's better, it's better, cola.
And you're back with the Blackhouse, 106.1 FM. And just before that music break, we were talking about graphic arts. We've got 2 graphic artists in the studio today. How's that?
Yeah.
Sweet.
So tell us about it.
Yeah, no, I would love to hear about your history as a graphic designer, like where you started and what inspired you to push towards that.
So since growing up, I always want to be some sort of like designer, but I didn't know what type of design I want to do. So I joined this after school program where they do like a lot of creative industry stuff, like technology, 3D printing and all that kind of stuff, which I work there now as a mentor. And then from there, I developed like an interest into like technology design, but at that time I didn't know what it was. And then in high school, I did a lot of like arts, like a lot of paintings.
Yeah.
I like a lot of like abstracting emotions kind of thing. Because writing and reading is not my thing. I would just say like I'm more like a visual learner. So I like expressing my thoughts and my ideas through like a visual context. So in my year 12 and year 13's portfolio, on my year 12 portfolio, I did A New Life as a Refugee. So it's basically shows the transition to leaving the war, living in a refugee camp and entering a new country. So it tells a story. And then my year 13 portfolio, I did about the conflicts between Christianity and science. So the idea through a visual context. And then and I did graphic design in my year 12 and year 13. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's completely different to painting and drawing. And I'm like I was learning I was learning Illustrator, Photoshop, and design.
The classic packet.
The classic packet, Adobe Suite kind of stuff. And then the place that I go to after school, they told me I should apply for Massey. And I was like, okay, I'm going to apply for Massey. Now I'm in my 4th year in design, and I'm doing my major project this year.
Yeah. Oh, bravo.
Yeah,
fantastic. Bravo.
It's been a long journey. But I think the hardest thing for me, it's just convincing my parents that being in a creative industry, I can earn income from it and all that kind of stuff. Because I think they're not educated, especially people back home, not educated at great designing. You can actually earn a lot of money out of it.
You can.
Did they want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or what's the other option? An accountant.
Yeah, doctor, lawyer.
I know. I
accountant.
think for my parents, it's more that they want me to work in an industry where I can earn money, because I wasn't too sure if I would able to earn money from the career that I chose from.
Well, my experience has been that there's like the freelance route and like the independent route, and then there's the prescribed route, and it doesn't kind of matter what you choose to do with your time. It's like, can you do freelance? Are you better suited towards it, or do you need a prescribed route? So like, doesn't actually matter anymore whether or not you're a doctor or an artist. It's like, can you work with a company who will be able to help allocate you to their connections, or can you make your own?
Exactly.
And that has a lot more to do with it, especially if you're in any kind of creative field. And ultimately, yes, I'm sorry, doctors make the most, but like if
You don't have fun.
well, it's more like, if you're not built for being a doctor, do not get in their way.
Exactly. I would just fight, man. If I see blood, I'm like, I'm out.
Right? That's it. Some of us are just not designed for certain types of work. Like, and you know, I'm like, I do not want people relying on me and having to like do brain surgery on like newborn babies. I'm like, I ain't got that kind of stress capacity. I'm stressed out just thinking about what to cook for dinner. I do not need that kind of stress in my life.
Exactly.
So, like, Wellington's a centre of a lot of film and that sort of thing. Do you see yourself getting into the film industry that's happening in New Zealand?
Ooh, that's good.
Ooh. I like editing, so I like more the behind scenes of filming, not really the acting kind of thing.
Yeah.
I more like doing the storyline and storyboarding, telling the story through the behind the scene. I did want to do film at first because I want to do a major project. I want to do a double degree in film and design.
Yes.
But that's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot.
A lot of work or a lot of money?
A lot of work.
Right.
Because design itself, that's a lot. Then adding film into it, that's a lot within itself. So if you're doing two degree at once, that would take a lot of energy from you.
Yeah.
My son also said that there's a lot of work in the gamer space for graphic designers.
There is.
Can you guys tell us about, like, what is the deal with that? And is that a potentially, because I'm talking to you both now as graphic artists, so is that potentially a scene that people could get, that you could get into?
Well, I'll let you go first because you're here. Unless you would like me to take that one.
You can take over.
All right. Okay. So I do actually have insight on that one. So so first off, the gaming industry is famously a little bit skinflint when it comes to paying people on the lower level.
Oh, right.
So if you're just doing manual labor, i.e. like texturing grass, they're like, yeah, look, you're interchangeable. But the higher up you get in the creative field, so if you can do not texturing or some of those kind of skills, like the further up you go, the more you're like, I'm a part of the team who designed this game from scratch. That's where they need people. Right. And it's about being able to be like, oh yeah, no, I'm this game's creative director. I'm the one who's deciding the jobs that are then going to be divvied out.
Yeah.
And that kind of work, that managerial work and that sort of work where you understand the vision from start to finish, that's the kind of work that is well paid within the industry. So what you want to be able to come at this with is the ability to have a vision, fund that vision, and then get like workers down beneath you. Like the moment you're actually sitting on top of the creative industry, you start to see the reality of what's underneath as well, and why people don't get paid as much, because you're just like, shit, I had to. You have no idea how much people are pulling out of their ass, even if they're right on the top. Yeah. Right. And so but the work is available, and the more of those kinds of skills you have, the more people will come to you. Exactly. And the more they will value within the project. And if they have funding, they'll be like, man, we'll split this 50-50 because you're the one helping me like make it exist. Yeah. So that's like kind of like my take and my experience within that industry.
And is that industry very active in New Zealand, or do you have to go abroad?
Oh no. We've got Pickpock Studios, which makes good money, and they've only made more now that we have COVID because more people are inside.
Right.
So actually, those industries are like, it depends on where they are. AAA games, yes and no. But like, actually, ironically, like phone games and stuff, everyone is on their phone all the time.
Right.
Like app design and all that kind of stuff.
Are you doing things like that, like designing animation, games?
I want to, but that's not the pathway I want to go through.
Yeah.
I think the pathway that I want to go through, I'm more like an advocate designer. So I want to design for change in the world, basically. So if I work with company like NGO company like UNICEF, United Nations, that's my goal.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to just design something to like I don't want to do a game design or app design. I want to do something that's more meaningful and beneficial to society.
Yeah, I think there's this thing as well, which if I'm getting you correctly, like it's like, especially as a Black person, you feel the weight of our responsibility.
Exactly.
At everything you do, whether it's be a doctor or an artist, you're quietly have this little voice in the back of your head is like saying, but are you servicing our people?
Exactly.
But what does this do for us?
I think for me, the biggest challenge I have is after my degree, would I be able to get a job because I'm Black?
Yeah.
And I'm a female.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Well,
that's a hard
That's a hard one in Wellington.
That's a hard one.
It's a hard one in Wellington.
It is a hard one in Wellington, but so as a Black female who has worked with different companies, the fun fact is that if you're working internationally through the internet and you have any kind of following, one, they don't give a shit if you have a following. If you have numbers that you're going to bring with you, automatically, they want you. Because you bring an audience and an audience brings capital. And then the thing number two, when you're working on the internet, they can't see you. You can use an alias if you need to. Call yourself Deborah Sandra McWhitey Pants. I just mean to say, like, you know, you're bringing your skill, and they'll see your skill before they even get to meet you, and that will actually come as an asset.
Yeah.
And sometimes sometimes being Black is the asset as well, where you can come to a project and say, hi, international people, I am Black, so that is a corner of the market I can bring an expertise in. So it's not all downside.
Okay, because I'm like, because I thought I could be, but so I'm like, would I be able to get a job in that type of field after uni? So I'm like, I shouldn't let fear hold me back.
No, never let that hold you back.
No.
But it's like always in the back of my mind that like,
well, I'll tell you what, if you have an internet following when you come to people, especially within the creative and marketing fields, like if they know that you're going to tell your fans, I'm working on such and such, and they'll all be like, oh my God, that's like several more $1,000s for this project, then they don't care. You could be blue.
Yeah, I remember when they really pushed for single parents and all that to get off long-term benefit living and get their degrees. And so a whole bunch of us just started pouring into universities, and this is when the universities actually started charging fees, because prior to that they didn't, they were free. And it was really interesting watching what happened here in Wellington, because like my degree, lots of people say like, well, what are you going to use that for? And I said, I'm going to be a tomb raider. What do you think I'm going to be? And basically, like, you went through the system and then the system raised the bar. So what happened was you would get your degree, and then suddenly having a degree wasn't good enough, because, and I think this is definitely related to the economy somehow. I won't go into details because I'm not sure how, but I think this is what I believe. And when they raised the bar, it's like, okay, well then you go for that one, and then still
raise it up.
they raise it again. And I thought that was fascinating, that when I went to Australia, because it's a much bigger economy, a degree was all you needed. I had a job in 2 days and getting paid more than what you would get in Wellington at an NGO or anything else like that. But I think it's related to the economy. when you say that it's hard, people close ranks, and industry closes ranks, and it'll protect its own, and it'll push out the others, because I saw it happening a lot in Australia with the mining industry and stuff like that.
There's a lot of nepotism in New Zealand's economic structure, and you know what? Like on one hand, that's actually kind of good, especially with the like Maori communities supporting their own.
But if you don't belong,
it makes it very.
I mean, I lived 10 years in Taranaki, and they had big industries there. They had the gas industry, they had the chicken industry, they had meatworks. Good luck getting in there unless you were married to somebody or one of them, or whatever.
Well, they don't think of it as there was a time where it was like, we are this town because of a handful of people who moved here. And because New Zealand's so young, they're like, that was my great-grandpa at best. Like, they started this town.
Yeah.
So they can still feel a sense of their own selves within that space. Whereas like you go to somewhere like London, and London is literally built on London, which is built on London, right? Like there's too many generations.
They keep digging and discovering stuff underneath London.
And then and New Zealand's young enough so that we haven't quite gotten to the point where infighting has forced all of those little towns to disperse either.
Not that I had any problem with living in Taranaki, because I learned how to surf, which was awesome.
Nice.
And did a lot of studying because I couldn't get work. So, that's all good. Yeah. But I mean, I understand that struggle and being outside and, knocking at the door and not being able to get in because you're the wrong type of person for whatever that is.
Well, I mean, bringing it back to central topics, like the thing that I feel like I picked a graphic designer, illustrator because I was black in a way. Like I was like, well, I'm not going to end up being a doctor and they're not going to hire me here and they're not going to hire me there. But I am a creative and I do have a lot to say.
Exactly.
And I actually think that like a lot of like there's actually like almost like this big resource of black creatives, and I feel like there's this place where it's like actually we really need that. We need cohesive design within our cultures and within the black diaspora and our little knit communities. That ability to create a appealing aesthetic and to draw ourselves to ourselves is actually a really important skill, even if it's not directly giving us money.
Exactly. I'm more into the communicating side of the individual content because my major is visual communication.
Yes.
So we communicate whatever issues that's going through in a communicative way. So a bit of my major project is about focusing on the refugee resettlement program.
Wow.
So I want to focus, how can a visual communicating designer help newcoming refugees still to transition well into Aotearoa society?
Yes.
And I came across the immigration side. I got really... Like, it just rubbed me the wrong way because there was one comment, there was like, refugee must, refugee must, And I was like, what type of language is this? Like, you should not, like...
We're not animals. Like, it's not like a 10-step program for how to handle a refugee.
And this is like a government site. And I'm like, bruh, this is like...
Like, look, I'm a person.
Change your language.
Thank you.
Bruh, like, they came here for safety and you guys welcomed them into Aotearoa with open arms. Don't use this type of language because they didn't choose to come to New Zealand.
Yeah.
If you're in the refugee camp, they're like, you're coming to Aotearoa. Yeah. And you're like, where is New Zealand?
So they assign you a country, right?
Yeah. So what my parents is, they're like, they'll be in the refugee camp and they're like, or like, you're going to come to New Zealand. They're like, okay, cool, sweet. We're going to a new safe country. But they don't know where the country is. Yeah. And then when you come here, you stay 6 weeks in Mangere, which is in Auckland. And after that, you got split into Invercargill, Wellington, Auckland, Hamilton, whatever. Yeah. And then you build your life from there. And you're like, what's next?
I'm always like, I was stunned when I heard they were resettling people down south.
Wow.
Only because when you grow up here, you just like, nah. All the brown people are in the North Island, and even the Māori in the South Island are very light-skinned Māori. So, like, I was really stunned. I'm like, but I heard it had something to do with the Anglican Church. Is that right?
Right.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I haven't done my research on that.
Sorry, I don't know anything. I literally have been here for 20 years and I still haven't set foot on the South Island.
Oh, really?
Not once. And it's funny. If you ask me why, I'm like, I don't know. There's just some juju going on. And I sense it, but I couldn't put a name on it.
Yeah, there definitely is.
And then when the mosque attacks happened, I was like, okay, there's a name for it.
Well, just continual incidents of like earthquakes and flooding and earthquakes and shootings and more shootings.
And I was just like, I don't know what it is, but I'm just feeling not going there. And then it only has been more affirmed since then. Like you know what it is. Like you know you get that black girl senses go off and you're just like and like you're like vibing with someone and then like you get a notification from upper channels and like you need to walk away and you're like, okay, cool, toodaloo, I'll see you later. And you're just like, you don't even know. You have no justification. Yeah. And sometimes it all pans out and sometimes it doesn't. Maybe it's paranoia. I don't know. I'm still listening to it.
I'm gonna go to a song and we'll come back to you in a minute, Clench. We'll talk a little bit more about your refugee graphic thing. Yep.
I was about to say, I'm really excited to hear how you are applying graphic design to your projects, the It's Okay Not to Be Okay, and also to, what is it, the other one? The Black Elite.
So
okay. All right, so I'm going to go on to D. Matthews with Melanin Skin. D. Matthews is a Nigerian, Auckland-based singer and songwriter. D. Matthews has created his own style of Afro beats in using motivational and energetic sounds driven by the beats of Africa, New Zealand's own Afrobeat star that can go head-to-head with anyone Australia puts forward. So here we go. This is D. Matthews with Melanin Skin.
Got that sauce in it. My melanin skin. Melanin skin. My girl, she got that melanin skin. Melanin skin. Wow. Melanin skin. Melanin skin. My girl, she got that melanin skin. Melanin skin. Oh yeah. Baby girl, come be my jailer. Let us escape this world together, and you can be my ride or die. 'Cause I will always be there for you, just like forever and ever. I will treat you just like a queen, and we can go deep in the sheets and make it a good time. My melanin skin. Melanin skin. My girl, she got that melanin skin. Melanin skin. Wow. Melanin skin. Melanin skin. My girl, she got that melanin skin. Melanin skin. Oh yeah. My African baby, my tomato baby. When I look deep into your eyes, you give me the shivers of life. It's that cold feeling that one can never resist. And we can go deep in the sheets and make it a good time. My melanin skin. Melanin skin. My girl, she got that melanin skin. Melanin skin. Wow. Melanin skin. Melanin skin. My girl, she got that melanin skin. Melanin skin. Oh yeah. When I look deep into your eyes, baby, you give me that wild, ferocious, gracefulness look. That savage look. I can never replace you. My melanin skin. Melanin skin. My girl, she got that melanin skin. Melanin skin. Wow. Melanin skin. Melanin skin. My girl, she got that melanin skin. Melanin skin. Oh yeah.
And we're back. That ended really quite quickly. Let me just turn this thing off. Hey, we're back with the Blackhouse on 106.1 FM. Now, you guys were having a good chat before.
Yeah.
With about...
Okay, so
fill me
basically
in.
the question that I asked. So this Blackhouse radio station and this lovely lady here. One of the things that I'm learning is that we as the Black diaspora have no central, rather we have a central narrative, but unifying on that central narrative and our shared experiences is hard.
Yeah.
We are unified in a lot of our struggles, but not necessarily in a lot of our understanding of each other.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I actually feel like that graphic designers have a really unique place because it's like graphic design at its core is marketing and packaging, right? So our job, in a way, is to market and package like this entire experience in a way that people know to look for. And so I'm like, okay, tell me. Take me through, I'm Black. I have the visual language tools and I want to tell my story. And I want to hear how, if and how you are combining those aspects of yourself. Sorry, I know that's like a big, complex, multi-part question.
That's
Yeah, right?
So I'll just talk about most of my uni projects and how I came about to it.
Yes, please.
So most of my project has to do with my storytelling and my identity, basically. I remember in my second year in design, we did a degree about discriminating in Aotearoa. And everyone was doing on homeless people.
Yeah.
A lot of people was doing with the gender pay gap and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I feel like multiple people are going to do that type of topic.
Yeah.
And so I went back to like my own identity, being a refugee and being African. So I did based on the refugee quota at that time. So basically at that time, National did a law where if you're from Middle Eastern and then if you're from Africa, you're not able to come to Aotearoa unless if you have a family link requirement.
Right.
That year, I did a project with Real Vision, and then we went to the immigration office and saying that, can you guys please remove this quota because it's not letting people from those two areas to come to New Zealand.
Yeah, not everybody has family in New Zealand if you're from Africa. I mean,
exactly.
Like almost specifically.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. So through my own personal journey and then doing that through my assignments, it was really... I feel like I got really emotional, but at the same time it was really difficult because I had this really difficult lecture. She was like, but New Zealand's such a fair country. Da, 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 da.
Oh my God. It's fair if you've got all your needs met here, but it's not fair if it isn't.
Right? Like the gaslighting and the undermining is real. Like, I hear that just to the core of my soul. One of the things that I've meaningfully been struggling about in my own mental health is believing myself and my own experience.
Yeah, I don't like how she was questioning my own topic and all that.
It's almost like she'd come up to you and go, but are you really Black?
She was
sure?
She was on my neck and she's like, but recently New Zealand just let like 500 people in into us. I'm like, no, but you guys said pick a topic based on discrimination. And this is a discrimination.
That is discrimination.
And you're literally discriminating my topic of discrimination.
Exactly. And I'm like, bruh, through that whole 6 weeks of that project, I did not want to talk to her because I know she'll find a way to put.
She was getting personally triggered by it, probably.
Yeah, and I'm like, check for yourself.
Yeah.
Or educate yourself about this. This is actually going on. And I actually recently went to the immigration office and talked to her with the refugee people there.
Yeah.
I mean, not with World Vision and saying, please remove this.
Yeah.
It's not letting people in.
But there's actually a really good article, and I might send you a copy of it, about the New Zealand immigration system prior to the refugee intakes. And really what was happening there was a remodelling of what already existed back in the 60s, because New Zealand actually modelled their immigration behaviour actions. It was just a small little office back in, post-war. And they were modelling it on the White Australia policy. So basically, if you could get into Australia, then you could get into New Zealand. Oh, wow. And it was actually Indians in America that were challenging New Zealand's claim to being a fair country, when in actual fact, it's a really good article by Sean Brawley if you ever get a chance to read it.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely read it. And then there was one topic that I said based on hair extensions. So
real.
basically, it was an environmental topic. So we need to find something that's like waste consuming and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what? Synthetic hair is made out of plastic, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, that is environmental. Like, so my idea was to motivate people to use more human hair extension instead of synthetic hair, because that's like, if you chuck out a synthetic hair, it's going to take a long time.
What happens to all that hair that we chuck out?
Girl, I literally never thought about that once in my life.
And then like all my lecturer was like looking at me like, wait, what? I'm like, but I use it on my hair all the time. So this is an environmental topic. I'm like, this is for like my black girls out there that are using to like just to change their mindset of like what they're using and how it would affect the economically. I cannot pronounce the word properly.
The economy and the environment.
The environment and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But a lot of my lecturers are like looking at me like, I'm like,
this is
do your research,
right? Like, this is not for you.
This is not for you. This is for my people,
and
it's for me myself as well. Just to putting awareness out there that like we should be aware of what we use in our hair because it'll have a major impact towards the environment.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, like the black beauty industry is worth millions. It's actually huge.
Billions.
It's like,
billions.
It's billions. Like we are contributing so much. And one of the things I even remember reading was like, if black women only bought from black businesses in terms of makeup, that would be the economy. So that would be our economics sorted, one go. And like imagine, and like the impact globally of like a weave on the environment is literally something I have never thought of, not even once. So you bringing that up, I'm like, ooh, that is topically relevant. Thank you. Yes.
All the synthetic braids and whatnot, like the crochet braids and stuff like that, I try to reuse them where I can. Just wash them and reuse them. But the other stuff that you got to cut out, I'm just wondering, wow, are we filling landfills in Wellington?
Right? Like,
synthetic hair.
Like, do we just need to start making dolls and putting our weaves on the dolls when we're done with it? Like, give them a good wash and give them all that. I mean, because like the hair is such a sensitive topic for us culturally, right? I've had my dreadlocks for like the last 20 years, but even that, it was a journey all by itself. Like, and I've had braids. I've had synthetic braids. I've had an afro. I've had cornrows. Like those little cute teddy bear pom poms. Yep, the pom poms. Right. And I've been through it, and I settled into dreadlocks. But even that's a journey. And if I hadn't settled into dreadlocks and I had had settled into synthetic, you being like, but is that eco friendly? I'd have been like, oh no, what do I do? Emotional crisis.
It's not basically shaming us. It's just being just be more aware of what you're putting into it. But I had struggled with my own hair as well. Like just being confident, just wearing my natural hair out there. It took a long time for me.
That's a huge journey.
To be confident. But hair is such a sensitive topic out.
Yeah. I didn't, when I had dreads, I didn't grow them because it was something I was completely out of frustration with hairdressers in New Zealand. I'd just been, like I had a big af when I was young, and, like been so many times back to the hairdressers and them just stuffing it up. And I was just like, I'm just going to let it grow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this is all pre YouTube tutorials by amazing black women. Like with like all of these.
Pre-internet.
Now, all you need to do is go to the supermarket and get yourself some coconut oil, and and they give you this list of like, and you need some of this minerals, that minerals. Like before that point on the internet, like black hair was a headache, and you either had a salon full of African women who would sort your shit out, like aunties who loved you, or you did not.
You didn't in New Zealand.
When I went back
they didn't even have afro combs,
I know, right?
When I went back home, I was like, when I went to the salon and stuff, I was like, damn, I didn't know there was a much hair products out there and all that kind of stuff, because there was very little down here.
It's nearly next to nothing. But what's not next to nothing is this dashiki party that's coming up on the 18th of June. It's run by Black Elite, which is Clench's group, and supported by the Blackhouse. And if you want to get dressed up for the occasion and you don't know where to get African attire, don't worry, we got you. Check out Enoka Attire, Afrospec online. You got Afric Rear, but it's probably too late to order online with the COVID delivery systems as they are. And also we got Atsu, Dogbear Susie in Berhampore in Wellington, and Conjuasi on Instagram at Always Sleek. So, and also maybe you don't want to get dressed up. Maybe you just want to do your hair. We got lots of braiders in Welly. We got Claudia Rosales in Waitangirua, Rachel Jaboon, Phaser Africa Hair Braiding and Cornrows in Jayville, Braids by Kara, and Unleashed Hair Care by Tamara in Wainuiomata. And she's also a mobile service that will come to you, and there's not many that will do that. Wow, so with that, guys, we're coming up to our hour. So I'm going to go out with a track by Quaylen Mathley. Now, we had the honour of having Quaylen Mathley in Wellington a couple of years ago for the Newtown Festival, and his buddy, The Beloved. Quaylen, who hails from South Africa but's based in Auckland now, has the ability to create the quintessential mosh pit vibes with his trap anthems that had his set jumping from start to finish at the Newtown Fest, and this latest track is no exception. I'd like to thank Clench for coming in.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
And maybe we're going to have to get you back next week when we get our DJs in here to have a bit of a yarn. Oh, did I just give away a secret? Okay. So, good chatting to you. Come back next week. We'll try and get as many of us in the room. What do you reckon?
I
reckon too.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going out with Quaylen Mathley and Can You Dig It, Sucker?
I can dig it.
Yeah, hey, keep clear, bitch, there ain't nothing to see here. I get it high like a fever. I speak the words of a preacher while I street educated a teacher. I watch him scream from the bleachers, gritty till I feel my teeth hurt. Keep shit running till my feet hurt. I keep the burn when the heat hurt. Keep the beat packed when the speech burst. Last one inside, but you leave first. Let me show you what this heat worth. I pick it up when you lose it. Bitch, I'm straight up while you crooked. Hey, give me the beat and I cook it. We ain't on the same page for the booking. Hey, yeah. Can you dig it, sucker? You getting burned like some rubber. Hey, cut through these niggas like butter. Hey, you need some milk with a udder. Hey, selling them birds, watch them flutter. Hey, watch you get lost in the clutter. Hey, hit for defensive with clubbers. Talking down, have a permanent slumber. Hey, who more consistent than you? Hey, how do you hate on the movement? Vicks vapor rub, keep it soothing. Eat the dessert, the proof all in the pudding. Hey, you can't mimic how I do it. I ain't the drug, but I got the influence.
Don't forget,
I'm not trying to prove it. They overlook me, but I'm
the 18th of June. Get your tickets on Eventbrite. Get your tickets on Eventbrite. $10 early bird and $15 at the door, and Ep40 is available at the door. That's going to be at D4, the 18th of June. See you there.
Talking down, but who are you? Hey, I'm finna do what it do. Flex with the flow like it's new. I've been killing this shit since I came out of school. Hey, can you dig it, sucker? You getting burned like some rubber. Hey, cut through these niggas like butter. Hey, you need some milk with a udder. Hey, selling them birds, watch them flutter. Hey, watch you get lost in the clutter. Hey, hit for defensive with clubbers. Talking down, have a permanent slumber.
That program was brought to you by Wellington Access Radio. Get your voice heard.
Thanks New Zealand On Air for funding accessmedia.nz.